Hey, buddy.
Hey, man. Right on time.
Right on time. Perfect. I mean, just like a Navy SEAL team, just always on time, just like the Russian subways, always on time.
See, this is the benefit I have of being very low tech and not having all of the, what do you call it, professional things going on the screen that you have. But by being a sad little webcam, I never have my computer crash.
It's very smart because I don't know. I literally shut my computer down last night and then turned it on a little bit. We were going to go live and then it just wasn't working.
Have you tried singing to it at night?
That's a great point. I have not done a computer lullaby, which is maybe what I should do. Maybe I'm always angry and calling the robots dicks, and maybe I should stop fighting with them.
I don't know if people on this show, regular listeners of this show, like it or are starting to get tired of it when we do the censorship update each week. But I think this is a good week to do it, considering the amazing new Twitter warning that these materials may have come from hacked sources or whatever that then backfired in spectacular fashion.
It's kind of beautiful. I mean, it really fits into actually Government Secrets episode 31 with recap. More censorship. Yeah, it's fantastic to watch just how this is happening. So not only did that happen on Twitter, they also just weirdly announced this, like, oh, we're going to start doing a $5 a month subscription model. Really? So 3 weeks after, a month after Susie Dawson and Bill Binney announced the Panquake.com thing that's going to be a subscription model in blockchain, then suddenly Twitter does. Who in their right mind is going to want to pay for Twitter?
So for Twitter, I guess YouTube already had the you can pay to avoid ads thing, right, which basically took all the money from content creators and gave it to YouTube, right? If you paid for that, I assume.
Yeah.
And now Twitter is saying that what would be the special about because you'd basically be paying to have your data stolen
more than it already is being stolen.
More efficiently
having my data stolen, which is the thing that's not. Yeah, I don't mind that they're taking my data. I just want them to be more efficient about when they steal it and give it directly to the intelligence community, because there's a guy from MI6 that's on their board of directors or whatever.
Is there a way I could pay to only be shown corporate media and to have anything outside of corporate media have a giant warning on it that says this comes from hacked materials? Because I've been getting that for free and I feel guilty.
I'm not getting screwed over enough by the deep state. Can I also give them money? Is there a way I could do that? I want to help finance your corrupt nonsense. That's what I want to help do. I don't want to just be a victim to it. I want to really get stuck by it hard.
It's about reclaiming my future. I want to be an active force in my own, exploitation and abuse.
Reclaiming my future. I want to own my exploitation.
Yeah.
The way, but but help support you guys doing it. It really makes sense. Sign up for the subscription model to Twitter, everybody. And it's just like, and I'm gonna sign up for the subscription model to Twitter the same day I give the Nigerian lottery people my banking info. It'll be the same day. It'll be like, I'm gonna be like, you know what? I think this time this Nigerian lottery thing's gonna work out. I think I'm gonna win. And they said they're just going to transfer some money into my account. So how could this go wrong? And I'm going to gladly give Twitter more money.
I'm pretty excited because recently the suppression on YouTube has gotten to the point that I actually, on my videos, they have a negative view number. So YouTube has actually been going around, and if you watch one of my videos, they just kill you. They just push you out a window.
What I'm hoping for is literally just I want them to physically come in and take money out of my wallet. That's really what I want them to do. I want them to just I'm pressing the wrong button. I want them to, God, fucking rats. I want them to hold on. I'm retweeting this. I want somebody to like come through the screen and just grab both my wallet and my nuts at the same time. That's what I want them to do. Just that I think will be the best for everybody if we gave them that ability.
And then brand across your nuts. These may come from a hacked source.
Encyclopedia Britannica confirms that these nuts come from Lee Harvey Oswald and the Book Depository. That's what I want them to say.
Yes. I mean, the hacked warning is all the more hilarious because they're trying to claim that it came from a hacked source as opposed to a leak, because they can't warn you. They know they can't put warnings on things that were leaked because any good reporting comes from leaks. Like even the New York Times and Washington Post and all of them, they say, they're bullshit anonymous sources. Yes, they should not be anonymous sources. However, those are coming from leaks. That's the FBI or the deep state or whatever being like, hey, can you say this for us? And then they go, oh, anonymous sources told us. And it's all from leaks. So they're trying to claim that anything they disagree with is not a leak. It's a hack, which is horseshit, as well as the fact that, yeah, fine, it's a hack. I don't give a shit. If it's telling me the truth and showing me revelations about my government or about our garbage media, then all right, fine.
I'm sorry. What the guys uncovered at the Watergate Hotel, they technically broke in. So that's my issue. I don't like that they did that. It's just like, that's anything is.
We should put Nixon back in office because his downfall came from a hack source.
Yeah, it was a hack source. Yep. Sorry, Nixon never should have had to step down. I think this is really good stuff. It's like, I mean, like I don't care. Like you say, I don't care if it got the truth. Like the Spotlight story that they made into a movie.
Right.
There was some leaks in there. There was some people giving up some information that were within the Catholic Church.
Yep.
What should like? It's so preposterous. It's literally like somebody breaks into your home, and you go, "You broke into my home. You stole food. You stole all my money, all my valuables. You vandalized it." And you even left dishes in the sink after you eat, and they go, "Well, hey, I didn't leave dishes in the sink. Hold on a minute. Let's just," and then they argue with you about the dishes there was dishes there, and it's just like,
or where you found out about the dishes in the sink.
Yeah,
I'll acknowledge that I did all those things, but where did you find out? Because if it was from that guy that walked by, then it doesn't count.
There was a guy that walked into your property and peered in the room and said, like, he was breaking the law when he saw me desecrating your home.
When he saw me humping your dog, I'm not denying that happened. I'm just saying you can't. What he told you is not allowable in court.
Right. I cannot confirm or deny the dog humping, but a guy really jumped over your fence and we can't. We're going to live in a lawless society. Oh, goodness. Well, what do you want to start with, Lee? What do you want to be for its first segment? Or maybe that was our first segment. I don't know.
That could have been a first segment. Yeah.
Maybe it was a first segment. Not sure.
I could see you exploiting this voice in your day-to-day life. Like when you're getting your cars at the auto body shop, you're like, I think we're getting screwed here. It does appear to be a screwing.
I think you need to take 30% off the sticker price. And they'll just be like, all right, I guess we have to. I don't know what else to do. We just want to make this guy go away.
So I do have a CIA coup story that is timely because it's an anniversary today or this week. However, I know we've been doing a lot of CIA stuff. We can skip that and go to the Air Force for a minute.
Well, geez, I don't know. It just feels like, all right, we'll go to the Air Force for a minute. I mean, do we want to also just talk about what happened in Syria yesterday first, or
let's do that first. Go ahead. Okay.
So obviously,
I'm open for good things. Was it good things?
Well, yeah, it was the most diverse cabinet of people greenlit bombing Syria.
I was hoping that they had some nice ice cream or something.
Yeah, I'm sure the people of Syria are like, thank God for all this diversity. Yeah, they just bombed yesterday. I don't know all the particulars. I know Richard Medhurst, who is Syrian, was live streaming last night talking about it. And it really just, all of these people, I mean, this is why, glad Trump's gone, but this is why I was not cheering in the streets, because I knew this was going to happen.
Yeah, it's the same shit. I mean, it's exactly the same foreign policy, with the slight exception that Biden has actually stopped the withdrawal of certain troops that Trump had begun. But basically the exact same foreign policy. And as most people will recall, that when Trump bombed Syria, that was the day he became presidential. We were told by mainstream media, including MSNBC, Brian Williams, of course, jacking off under his desk at the beauty of our weapons. So this is the day that Biden became presidential because he bombed Syria. But it's also hilarious because they're like, oh, it's an Iran-backed militia, which the New York Times ran with a headline, U.S. airstrikes hit Iran-backed militias in Syria. And then within the article, literally there's a sentence that says, little is known about the militia and whether they're Iran-backed. And it's like, your fucking headline says they're Iran-backed. Like, I mean, that is the garbage they're giving. But I mean, this also speaks to the fact that we are funding and arming and helping militias on multiple sides of this thing. We basically just want chaos in a lot of ways. And sometimes we're bombing militias that are using our arms that we funded at some point in the past. I mean, there was headlines from a couple of years ago that CIA-backed CIA armed and trained militias were fighting Pentagon armed and trained militias in Syria. We're battling ourselves, but that makes a lot of people a lot of money.
Yeah, I mean, it's weird. I hear we're backing all these bizarre militias, and I don't know, I'm just feeling like I heard a story about two FBI informants, one for the Proud Boys and one for the Oath Keepers, and we just had an insurrection a month and a half ago. Weird.
We're insurrecting ourselves.
We're literally using the same ridiculous alignment with whatever evil jackass fills our coffers that day foreign policy. Oh, we're using that on American soil. It's really great.
And when you're on both sides of an insurrection, then that's exciting. That puts the erection back in insurrection.
Is that Biden's 2024 campaign slogan? We're going to put the erection back in insurrection.
I mean, I read it off a Biden bumper sticker, so yeah, probably.
Oh God, it's so like this. And then I haven't really gone on social media much. I mean, I posted this morning.
Wait, you don't hate yourself?
No, I'm trying not. I'm trying to skip away from hating myself. So I'm just wondering what percentage of, vote any blue will do, lesser of two evil neoliberals are going to buy this. Well, it was Iran. We had to do something about it. And
right.
All this diversity. I mean, they had rainbow flags on the bomb, so we must feel better about ourselves. Like America, I don't think those liberals who think they're so woke, I don't think they realize how many people like Richard Medhurst, that are from the Middle East, that are just like that. We hate Biden. We hate Trump. We hate all of you. We hate the Clintons. We hate the Bushes. We hate the Obama. And they just like their little brunch brain can't comprehend that there's criticism from actually the people in the Middle East who hate all of the leaders of the American empire, whether they're black or female or whatever. They don't care.
Yeah, and the most common, I'd say viewpoint of people that I have either seen interviews with or spoken with who are from Iraq or from Syria or lived there, may be that they don't love the leader, let's say Saddam Hussein, but the most common viewpoint I hear is, but guess what? That was our fucking country and you destroyed it all. And no, I never liked Saddam Hussein, but that doesn't mean I wanted 1 million people killed and my country sunk into just a failed state filled with militias and chaos. If we were going to remove Saddam Hussein, then it was the job of our country, not for just your bombs to rain down, creating chaos and killing just endless numbers of innocent civilians. I mean, the idea that because a certain leader is bad or there was certain human rights abuses does not equal the United States then can just destroy a country.
Well, if it did equal that, Lee, then people should have been bombing us during Trump. And then people should have been bombing us during Obama, because there was a large portions of the country that hated Trump, large portions of the country that hated Obama. And I would ask any of those groups, would you be happy getting bombed?
How about the #1 prison state in the world? The largest prison state in the fucking world, both by number and per capita. I mean, if that's not a crime against humanity, then I don't know what is. An incredibly racist prison state. So I guess that means other countries should bomb us to stop our prison industrial complex.
Well, yeah, but it's better now because we don't put kids in cages. We put them in facilities. Biden renamed the cages facilities.
Overflow facilities.
Yes, overflow facilities. So we're separating families in a much more congenial way, grammatically and semantically.
I feel better already.
Right?
I heard that the facilities had party poppers. You know, the streamers come out.
Yay, facility. Like, if this country should be getting bombed on a daily basis for all of our crimes, then if that's the criteria, humanitarian, we helped create the humanitarian crisis in Yemen. We have people still drinking contaminated water in Flint, Michigan, and dozens of other cities actually all over America. We have explosions and earthquakes due to fracking. Should somebody intervene on our behalf? We have a militarized police force that can just beat the shit out of anybody, kill unarmed people, never get prosecuted. That sounds like an authoritarian dictatorship. So maybe someone should start bombing us to give us freedom.
I mean, apparently, I don't see any flaw in your logic, and so I'm going to start cheering on the upcoming NATO attack of the United States.
Yeah, let's root for it. Let's just people they're just like, wow, because you know what? Americans have never had to experience, we haven't had a war on our soil in over 160 years. So Americans really don't know. We've had some attacks. We've had 9/11. We had what happened at Boston. We had Oklahoma City, which was done by domestic terrorists.
The only close to battle on our soil is Pearl Harbor, but Hawaii's not really our soil.
It's because we stole it. We stole it.
Well, Graham, come on, we stole it all.
Yeah, we stole it all. Exactly, we've stolen it all. And literally, but any of those were single events. So imagine if Pearl Harbor, 9/11, Boston was happening on a weekly basis.
Well, the comparisons I've heard sometimes from soldiers who have spoken is it's like, New Orleans after Katrina. It's a complete societal breakdown. But nobody knows in say Iraq or in some of these places where we're crushing them. Nobody knows if there's going to be power. Nobody knows if there's going to be clean water. It's just societal breakdown, which is very different from, like you're saying, a one-off attack.
So you mean like Texas last week?
Yeah, Texas last week.
Okay, great. Just so we're clear.
They were. I mean, I just read a well put article by a former soldier who was in Iraq, and he said, he wrote it before Texas, but he said, you're going to be seeing this more and more because of climate chaos. And Texas says they were within minutes of their electric grid crashing in such a way that they wouldn't have it back up for a month or months. I mean, could you fucking imagine just Texas with no electricity for months? I mean, and how that would play out? A lot of guns down there, a lot of guns. How that would play out, as who fucking knows? But we're going to be seeing more and more stuff like that, where it's like the system's collapsing, and the ruling elite are really just pulling a Ted Cruz and getting on a plane to Cancun. They're not there to actually save people or help people.
No, I mean, hey, in the last fall, we had it in California. The state was on fire. I mean, the whole West Coast was on fire. And what was Newsom doing? I mean, what was Pelosi doing? Was she eating ice cream? Like, what were any of them doing? They're just all parasites. And then to listen to Americans have been so brainwashed to say, well, we had to bomb Syria. I mean, I remember when Trump did that, a couple of liberal friends of mine who hated Trump were like, yeah, he had to. I mean, they gassed people. They're just been so spoon fed that America has to go to war. They don't even question it. And when Fareed Zakaria says he became president today, he was the one who said those exact words, Trump became president today. When he says that on CNN or MSNBC, wherever dumb channel he works on, then the brunch liberal crowd goes, that's how they sell war to people. Like when Rachel Maddow talks about it's okay, and Anderson Cooper says it's okay, and Wolf Blitzer goes, oh, what about the jobs? Then the dummy liberals go, oh, well, I guess we had to do it. Back to brunch.
Yeah, they lay the groundwork beforehand. I mean, Obama was talking about how we might need to bomb Syria if they use chemical weapons and, human rights abuses, blah, blah, blah. And so they lay this groundwork, and then they can, as we've now seen from the excellent reporting from the Gray Zone, from other reporters like Robert Fisk and John Pilger, we've seen that the chemical weapons attacks were horseshit. Yes. And yet that was used to begin the bombing of Syria. And they had laid that foundation. And speaking of laying the foundation, if most people don't recall, I mean, how quickly our news cycle works, but Obama initially basically said, we may need to go into Syria or bomb Syria because of what's going on there. And there was huge pushback, massive pushback against it. And he then backed off and didn't do it. It was one of the rare times that I saw the war machine gear up and be stopped by kind of activism and people speaking out. But they didn't stop. They didn't say, you know what, that America won't stand for this, so we're done. We're not going to do this in Syria. Basically, they stepped back, and I wouldn't be surprised if they had these exact meetings, but they stepped back and said internally, we need to lay the groundwork more for invading and bombing Syria. We failed to lay that groundwork. So they spent the next year laying that humanitarian rights, chemical weapons, all that groundwork, and then they bombed. And it seemed to, it was like the perfect kind of like, oh, we failed to do the early work. We failed to do the homework to really lay this groundwork so we can destroy Syria. So we'll spend a year doing that, and then we'll destroy Syria. And that's what they did.
Yeah. And this is, of course, and the fact that this bombing yesterday, they're trying to tie it to Iran. I was like, when everyone was dancing in the street in November, I said, we're going to invade Iran, right? Like, that's going to happen. Like, Biden will get us in. We're going to have boots on the ground if by the end of his term. I mean, within the first year, we're going to be at war. It's with Iran because they want it. Hillary Clinton talked about it in 2007 when she was a senator.
They've wanted it forever. Israel's wanted it forever. The thing that is holding it back is that Iran is far larger and more powerful a country than Iraq was at the time we invaded Iraq. And so the United States actually is fairly incapable of having a full-on war with Iran. And so they're doing it, we're doing it in the other ways. We're doing it with economic war. We're doing it with propaganda war and all this shit. And proxy wars, which is what part of this was, bombing the Iran-backed militia. And so, yeah, I mean, the U.S. couldn't even handle a fucking battle against Iran right now. We're already a collapsing empire. It would be disastrous. And that's kind of the one thing that's holding them back, but it's not holding them back from doing their best to crush Iran in every other way they can.
Yeah, we've been sanctioning them during a pandemic. That's how evil and sick this country is. Like, that's how disgusting we are. We should have lifted the sanctions and hey, let them get a handle on COVID, because every country getting a handle on COVID is better for the whole world. Well, I
know. Do you remember before it hit here? It hit Iran before it hit here. And there were news reports here with people laughing about the mass graves in Iran, like February of last year. They were like, oh, the satellites show mass graves in Iran because of this pandemic. Ha, ha, ha. And everybody was having a blast. And you're like, you fucking idiots. Where do you think it's going next? Do you think this is just Iran? You think, besides the fact that you're laughing at like what, children and babies and old people dying of fucking COVID. Well, I guess more old people, but still, you're laughing. That's hilarious. It's like, and sure enough, then it came here and it wasn't so funny anymore. But
yeah, we're an evil, sick, conservative, warmongering society, and we're collapsing. And the Republican Party is a neo-fascist party, and the Democratic Party has gone so far to the right that they're now the Republican Party of 30 years ago. And we have no anti-war movement. Because of 8 years of Obama, everyone at brunch while Obama set the Middle East on fire, dropping more bombs than Bush. So I don't know. I hope these will pull Biden to the left. I hope these fucking ridiculous dipshits pull their heads out of their neoliberal brunch asses and go, oh, maybe there is not much of a difference. Like, I hope that they do that, because if I hear any of this wait till the midterms, I'm like, the people in Syria can't wait till the midterms because we just bombed them yesterday. And oh, by the way, we still haven't gotten our $1,400 that adds up to $2,000. Already Biden's lying. That gutless old rapist cocksucker. And by the way, fuck Joe Biden and fuck his family and fuck his whole cabinet. I hope that's not too vague.
And we have those T-shirts available at the Government Secrets podcasts T-shirt merch page.
Yeah.
Fuck Biden, fuck his whole family, and fuck those cocksuckers. I believe did I get that right? Or
that is correct. Yeah, we're gonna put that in a koozie and a sweater for your puppy. We're gonna have that so you can put that in a sweater for your puppy.
The puppy sweater, yes. Because my dog is he's fed up. He's had enough of this.
I've met your dog. He's furious. He's really furious. Well, speaking of, the endless war, we don't have money for Medicare for all. We don't have money for student debt forgiveness. We don't have money for free college. We don't have money for even a $2,000 a month UBI, but we have money to waste on the F-35 that doesn't even work. Do I have that correctly, Camp? Is that...
You have that correct, the $1 trillion boondoggle. But here is the update. Forbes has reported the U.S. Air Force just admitted the F-35 stealth fighter has failed. This is a $1 trillion jet that has been in production for, I think, since I was 1.5 years old. I was definitely still taking dumps in my pants. Not sure the exact age. But so here's reading from the article. The U.S. Air Force's top officer wants the service to develop an affordable, lightweight fighter to replace hundreds of Cold War vintage F-16s and complement a small fleet of sophisticated but costly and unreliable stealth fighters. The result would be a high-low mix of expensive fifth-generation F-22s and F-35s and inexpensive fifth-generation minus jets, whatever that means, explained Air Force Chief of Staff General Charles Brown Jr. But the reason this is basically admitting that the F-35 has failed is because the F-35 was supposed to be a lightweight fighter to replace hundreds of Cold War vintage F-16s. And now basically the Air Force is saying, oh, we need the thing that the F-35 was supposed to do. I mean, like the article says, if that plan sounds familiar, it's because the Air Force a generation ago launched the development of an affordable lightweight fighter to replace the F-16s. However, over 20 years of R&D and all the other fucking lobbyist shit and everything else, you now have an incredibly expensive, incredibly heavy F-35 that is supposed to do everything and does nothing well, phenomenally expensive. So the F-35 has become the opposite of the thing it was supposed to be, which is basically equivalent to admitting it has failed despite $1 trillion. Well, it's been described as basically an F-35 is like a Ferrari. You don't drive the Ferrari to work every day. You only pull it out on Sundays. Well, America doesn't have many Sundays, so really we just have a thing sitting in the garage that looks really hot that can't even be used very well. And the Air Force said their plan was to buy 1,800 F-35s, and now they have it's like a couple hundred. Like, it's just completely not serving the purpose it was supposed to serve, and yet people and corporations have gotten insanely rich off of quote unquote building this failed monstrosity while we don't have healthcare, while people can't get education, while one out of every 3 Americans have said they have trouble paying bills last month or can't afford food. We're spending $1 trillion on a jet that isn't even useful. I mean, if it were useful, I'd still be screaming about it, but it's not even fucking useful.
Yeah, I thought it was even more. I thought it was like $1.5 trillion has been wasted on this thing. But
I think you're right. I'm just throwing out the number trillion. But once you get above $1 trillion, 1 trillion, 2 trillion, what
does it matter? It's $1.5 trillion is the exact amount of money that would forgive all student debt.
I know you. Oh, well, then that's perfect. I know you used to host game shows, so here's a quiz for you. If you make $40,000 a year, how long does it take you to make $1 trillion?
Oh, isn't it something like 20,000 years or something like that?
25 million years. You were slightly short.
Wow. So that means we could give 25 million Americans 40 grand right now.
I think that math works out.
Yes. 25 million Americans could get 40 grand. All the people who have lost if you lost your business, it's gone. You're behind on rent. Anyone that's behind on rent or your mortgage, you're in forbearance on your mortgage. We could give you 40 grand to square the table. Or we could have a stealth fighter jet that is not needed and doesn't work.
Yep. That's
what do you choose, Lee Camp? The choice is yours. What do you want? Help people or bomb for nothing?
That's about right. And here's another quote from, I can't tell what his rank is, but another military guy who said, if we're going to pull the trigger on a new fighter, now is probably the time. I mean, they are literally talking about possibly developing something else because they have 100 F-35s and they need thousands of lightweight jets, which they don't have. I mean, it's hilarious. If it weren't such an insane amount of money that could help so many people, it really would be just a fucking hysterical. I mean, I don't know when the last time most people read Catch-22, the book is, but it's like, when I first read Catch-22, I hadn't been reading much about our military. I was a little less informed, and I thought it was hilarious because I didn't realize it's like true. Like literally, we already mentioned in Syria, we are battling ourselves. Like we're battling militias or funding militias so they can battle other militias that we're also funding. We're fighting ISIS, which we helped create, et cetera, et cetera. So we're battling ourselves. We're spending $1.5 trillion on a jet that doesn't work. It is just like the satire in Catch-22 can't even keep up with the reality of our military.
Now's the time for a new bomber. Has that guy driven by? He hasn't. If he's a general, if he hasn't been paid by big defense contractors, he will be the minute he leaves the Army, right. Or the Air Force or whatever branch he's with. You have a 6 to 7 figure job waiting for you, just waiting for you. And so, this guy, I doubt he's ever driven by any of the food lines that are miles long in every city in America that have been operating this way for the last year. Like now, I don't even understand how these people think. There's a pandemic, right? People are out of work. There's new unemployment claims being filed every week. You get this. Yeah, I know, but we need a bomber. It's unbelievable. It's like, it'd be like if you're like Grant, I'm like, I lost my job. I don't know what to do, but man, Lee, Vegas, that's where we're going, baby. Like,
well, and weirdly, the military has admitted, the Pentagon has admitted, at least in reports, that the number one national security threat is climate change. So at least internally, they're admitting that. But then, they outwardly say we need more bombers, we need more of this. Although the Congress does keep producing things that the military literally says, please stop making them for us because we don't want them and we don't need them. Like Abrams tanks. Abrams tanks continue to get built, even though there's thousands of them sitting in the California desert. You can Google this image. It's just thousands of tanks lined up because they don't know what to do with them. Tanks are not used very often anymore, ever. And so literally Congress just keeps producing them and the Pentagon is like, stop sending us fucking tanks. It's fucking incredible. And another reason this happens, or like the F-35 keeps getting built despite the fact that it's such a fucking catastrophe, is that they strategically made sure that pieces of the F-35, it has hundreds of thousands of pieces. It's incredibly high tech, hundreds of thousands of pieces. Pieces are made in 48 states. All but 2 states have a vested interest and jobs on the line to keep producing the craptastic F-35.
It's so, and the jobs thing is just like, gee, what if 48 states all contributed to like building things that had solutions for climate collapse?
Right.
What if 48 states were building, affordable housing that the homeless could live in? Like what? I'm so sick of that job thing. It's so stupid and it just doesn't make sense. I hope here's what's going to happen. Americans, and what happened in Texas, what's happened the last year because of the pandemic economically, Americans are going to be forced into realizing that the climate is collapsing and capitalism is making it worse. Like capitalism has created this, and then economically it's going to be worse. Because what are the Abrams tanks going to do? Are they just going to shoot rising oceans? Are we going to just use the F-35 to bomb hurricanes that it's been proven they're not created by climate change, but they're stronger as a result? Like what do they think? What's going to happen? Like when these fat idiot generals, when their homes flood, what are they going to do? Just bomb it? Like, what are they going to have, a laser guided missile? Like, what are they going to do? I'm mystified at this, but people are going to be forced. The people of Texas, I hope they wake up. I mean, if they listen to their dumb governor go, oh, well, it's solar panels and Democrats that caused this. No, idiot. Both your dumb, filthy parties ruined this. I hope people realize that both these parties don't give a damn about them. Climate collapse is happening and it will affect everybody no matter what. So maybe don't be an idiot and do something about it. But I don't know. Human beings, especially the American human being, seems pretty prone to being willfully stupid.
Yeah. I mean, I think one of the biggest problems is that that Americans seem to think like, oh, Congress has it. Like they're dealing with this. We may not always like their decisions, but Congress and the Pentagon are dealing with this. And it's like, no, they're all just enriching themselves. They don't. Like they're not dealing with it. They'll keep producing tanks to sit in the desert. They don't give a shit.
Congress has, that's just like, you know what? Everyone that's involved in all those reality shows like Real Housewives and Survivor, they got it. They got this under control. I really trust that they're gonna fix things. Like it's just like they've got it. Just like yeah, they got it. All those meth heads, they got this. They're in charge of the opioid epidemic. We got it. They got it. All right, let's do the whatever CIA operation coming up next on Government Secrets. Folks, hit the like button. Subscribe to both of our channels. If you're listening to Government Secrets, please give it a good review on iTunes and Spotify and all that stuff, because that all helps. Yeah.
Yeah, it shows how much preparation we put into the show. You're like, coming up next, whatever Lee was going to talk about.
That's how we do it. I think we're going to talk about some other subject. Government secrets. No pre-production.
Pre-production is for pansies.
F-35 will make us all better.
So and I feel like it feels like every day, or at least every one of our episodes, I learn about some new CIA coup, or at least you could type. You were saying last week you just type in operation in a letter and you find some new operation they did, but you can also just type in really CIA and a date, and you'll probably find a certain date of some year when they created a coup in some country.
Do this. Just do operation with a letter. Do CIA and a date, or CIA and any country.
Yeah,
you'll just pick anywhere. Just like CIA Finland. Well, in 1963, the CIA got rid of wooden shoes in an effort to whatever the thing is. Like,
I mean, granted, you're going to find more stuff if the country's not white, but yeah,
sure, of course, for sure.
So, 55 years ago this week, 55 years ago this week, the CIA helped doom much of sub-Saharan Africa in a coup against Dr. Kwame Nkrumah of Ghana. And there's a great article. There's far too much in here for me to get into all of it, but a great article at covertactionmagazine.com. If you type in CIA coup Ghana and Covert Action Magazine, you'll probably find the article. So, they say that 55 years ago today, or this week, the fate of Africa was irrevocably altered when the CIA sponsored a 1966 coup against Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, the prime minister at the time of Ghana, and a Pan-Africanist visionary who was voted as Africa's man of the millennium. 1,600 Ghanese died in the coup, and for a while, the claims of Dr. Nkrumah that it was connected to the U.S. and the CIA were ignored or dismissed as delusional. However, in 1999, Nkrumah's claim was borne out when the U.S. government declassified the Western orchestrated plot to get rid of the man who was, quote, doing more to undermine our interests, meaning U.S. interests, than any other black African, unquote. So basically, he was trying to unite Africa in many ways and create obviously more equality and more power for Africa, which would then create less exploitation of Africa, which is very bad for colonial states like the U.S., Great Britain, and Canada. And apparently the U.S. worked with Great Britain and Canada to finance, mastermind, and guide the coup.
Well, there it is. The common theme of anytime somebody unites, we talked about this last week with Fred Hampton. We've talked about it with Bobby Kennedy, with anybody if you start uniting people, oh boy, they can't let that happen. God forbid we make societies better and give people opportunity and growth and all that other stuff. So, yeah. Yep.
When the coup against Nkrumah was being planned in 1964, so it goes back to 64, which, by the way, you notice the worst of this horrible villainous shit was done by the CIA in the 60s, including, of course, taking out MLK and Kennedy. But when it was being planned in 1964, William Trimble, then director of the State Department's West Africa desk, wrote a memo to his bosses entitled, quote, Proposed Action Program for Ghana, which said, although Nkrumah's leftward progress cannot be checked or reversed, it could be slowed down by a well-conceived and executed action program. Measures which we meet which we might take against Nkrumah, would have to be carefully selected in order not to weaken pro-Western elements in Ghana or adversely affect our prestige and influence elsewhere on the continent. U.S. pressure, if appropriately applied, could induce a chain reaction, eventually leading to Nkrumah's downfall. Chances of success could be greatly enhanced if the British could be induced to act in concert with us.
Well, look at that. We brought the Brits in to do some more evil shit. And
I mean, they had never really stopped being butthurt over the pieces of Africa they lost earlier.
Yeah. That's the thing about the British government is they're always down to try to reclaim some of their empire. They're always down for some colonial evil shit. Like they're always like, man, we did that for so long. And with it, the sun never set on the Union Jack. So sure, man, we'll join in with whatever evil crap you guys got planned in a country that doesn't deserve it. They don't have a tea time.
So prior to the declassification, John Stockwell, a CIA officer in Africa, had recounted the plot to undermine Nkrumah's government and to sow anti-Nkrumah sentiments among Ghanaians. Howard Bain, who was the CIA. So this is a quote from Stockwell, former CIA. Howard Bain, who was the CIA station chief in Accra, engineered the overthrow of Nkrumah. Inside the CIA, it was quite clear. Howard Bain got a double promotion and was awarded the Intelligence Star for the overthrow of Nkrumah. The magic of it was that Howard Bain had enough imagination and drive to run this operation without ever documenting what he was doing, and there wasn't one shred of paper that was generated that would name the CIA hierarchy as being responsible, unquote.
Do you think they have secret handshakes?
Yeah, I think it looks a lot like a circle jerk.
Like guys playing Cookie or whatever that game was. I don't know how to even respond to these. What was it called? Operation what?
I don't know if I got an operation name.
Project?
Operation Fuck Africa Over.
Yeah. Keep colonialism thriving. Well, how do we, as a society,
and the quotes by these officials and things, it's like, because most of the quotes, they're not admitting it was them. So they even on some of the declassified stuff, they certain levels of people will just say, wow, it's really great what's happening in Ghana. But even with that stuff, they seem so there's not even a shred of like care for a state being overthrown and just collapsing. I mean, it really is just like, oh, this is good for America. Like they couldn't care for a second about anything except the imperial goals of the United States.
Yeah, the imperial goals. This is good for America, but it's also like, how did this benefit the American citizens? Like, even if that's their claim, like, oh, we didn't know this was. No one knew this was going on. This is being done in our name. It's being done with our tax dollars. I mean, I wasn't alive back then, but it's just like, oh, to protect America's freedoms. No, it isn't. Shut up. Just say like it's like you're not protecting anyone's freedoms. It's like, hey man, I broke into that bank because I'm protecting the freedoms of currency or whatever. Like that's not even a good example. But it's like, who did this benefit? Like what aspect of American life was like, well, it was improved because of this. Not that it wasn't good to begin with at all. It's awful. And then just this, like you say, the callous, just like, well, we killed a bunch of people, but we had to. No, we didn't. Like we come to this conclusion almost in every episode. It's like,
yeah, I mean, their argument would probably be like, well, it increased American power and things like that. But that's like a guy, fucking barbaric troglodyte dude walking into a room and just killing another guy in there he's never met. and being like, well, now I'm safer because he died. It's like, yeah, but what did he do? What did he do to you? Well, how is he arming you? Well, it doesn't matter. I'm just safer because he died. Yeah. It's like, if you just obliterate parts of the world and make them not be able to stand up and actually have their own opinions or own lives, then you don't have to worry about them. So, I mean, and so in that like disgusting, cynical, sociopathic view, they're like, oh, this is useful. Just crush that country, you know?
Yeah, it is. And they'll have some crazy concoction of like, well, they were going to line up with this group. It's like, no. Like, I remember watching the documentary Fog of War, right, with William McNamara.
Yeah.
And he was like talking about what we thought they were going to line up with China. And he met decades later his contemporary, the Secretary of Defense equivalent from the North Vietnam, right?
Yeah.
He was talking to that guy, and they were like, in the documentary, he's like, well, we were afraid you guys were going to side with China. And he goes, are you guys idiots? Have you ever read a history book? We hate the Chinese. The Chinese treated us like crap. Vietnam, you guys, your dumb colonialism is so racist. You think all Asians get along or whatever. Like, and McNamara goes, it almost came to blows. This guy was like, are you guys stupid? Like, and it's just our dumb perceived colonial fears that the masses, the hordes or whatever, they're gonna rise up against us. It's always that dumb mentality of like the first. I mean, just the way this country was founded. We didn't come here and go, oh, let's work together with natives, and no, just slaughter them, give them blankets full of syphilis, and take their land. Like, it's just awful.
Well, I will say that the way it's justified in their minds, I mean, capitalism is based on the exploitation of the many by a tiny number of individuals. So in order for a tiny number of individuals to continue to rule over millions and make those millions not stand up and be like, why the fuck are we making you rich with our labor? You kind of have to convince them that this is the best, model, and it's wonderful for you, and this is the best way to have things. And I'm not a communist, and I think communism was a disaster. But the part of it that makes a lot of sense is, communism was taking socialism and putting it in a tiny number of hands, so it still was a totalitarian structure in that manner. But it still had at least some of the ideals of like, well, the workers matter. The workers should get to benefit from their labor rather than just enrich a tiny number of individuals. And so in that way, it was a dangerous example to set. It was dangerous for the capitalists to allow Americans to see that example elsewhere in the world. And so that's what they feared would come from like Vietnam or some of these other states that were communist or leaning communist. And so that has a lot to do with it, I think.
Yeah, we're just so misguided too, because I mean, that you're right, that has a lot to do with it. But again, we completely missed in this documentary, Ho Chi Minh visited this country in the late 40s and read our Bill of Rights and read our Constitution. And at the time they were a French colony. And he just read our history and went, oh, America will side with us because the French are treating us the way the Brits treated the colonialists here. And like, he thought that, and he was very, why wouldn't he? If you read our documents of freedom and get rid of the tyranny of King George, he's like, they'll help us get me.
He didn't realize it was all bullshit.
Yeah, he realized it's all bullshit. Yeah, it's all.
He didn't realize that the all men are created equal was written by very rich white men who actually meant all white slave owning males or whatever.
Yeah, that's what they meant. We are all equal. We get to keep our land.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's perplexing to, well, I guess it's not, like you say, it's just the sickness of capitalism that just you come into this view of, well, how do you start the day? Like, well, how do I exploit people and stick it to somebody so that I succeed, rather than how do we all work together? How do we all help everybody?
Yeah. And capitalism uniquely like rewards the sociopaths. I mean, the estimates are that 1 out of every 100 people are sociopaths, meaning they don't have empathy for others for the most part. And those people are the ones who are going to get to the top of most corporations. If you sit back and say, you know, I care about these other people and I want to work with them, then you may do okay, but you're not going to get to the fucking boardroom that has fucking 6 people in it making all the calls. And so, you know, that might not be a problem in every corporation, but in general, over the entire society, if you're putting all the sociopaths at the top, then you end up with a sociopath society. So we have a sociopath economy that has no empathy, cares not for the environment, for individuals, for human beings, for health, only cares about profit, only sees profit. And that profit and power, because power can be used to get profit. So we have a sociopath economy that rewards sociopaths, and it's like you're as long as you have a system like that, little changes around the edge might be nice, but they're not going to change the system.
No, there needs to be a drastic overhaul of everything, which might be forced upon us.
Yeah.
One way or another. I mean, with climate collapse, it's going to collapse, and then we're going to have to figure things out. So,
well, on the bright side, maybe the you know, little bursts of collapse that we're already seeing, things like Texas and California, et cetera, will make people realize a little bit what actually should matter in life. You know, that actually we should be appreciating each other and trying to help each other, be happy and healthy, rather than just enriching ourselves while we destroy the world around us. So maybe it'll kind of be like a shock jock doctrine, but towards some good, where people are like, oh, fuck, you know, when the fires were raging through our neighborhood in California, I noticed I wasn't thinking about how I was going to get wealthy from it. I was thinking mostly about taking care of people.
Yeah. I mean, it's really like, it's because they're seeing everything. So Texas, a red state, doesn't care about its citizens. California, blue state, doesn't care about its citizens. Cuomo, all of his filthy corruption, lying about people dying. Now he's also sexually harassing, people. And he was the big hero a year ago. Wow, I wish he was president. Oh, yeah, great. So, and the stories that you hear come out from like the American people, like just what's happening in Texas, I hear people really helping each other. The government isn't, but they're helping each other. I just heard about like a brewery that was like, we have all this access to water to make our alcohol. So we're just giving people 5 gallons of water a day. They're just giving people water, and people are helping each other out, and food banks. And so I hope, like you say, people.
Yeah, mutual aid is a big one. If people are listening and they're struggling in Texas, look up mutual aid. There's chapters and people working across the state and across the country.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I donated to the Houston Food Bank, and we can all help in those ways. And you're seeing people going, well, we have to help each other. And I hope, like you say, it is a shock doctrine in the other way, in a good way, of people going, you know what, this ain't working. We're done. Like, we're done with this, because it's all, big corporations just follow the money. Why did Texas do this back in the 1930s? So oil guys didn't have to pay for regulations. It's all just for their own profit. It's not to make Texas stand alone. It's so that oil guys could make money. So, yeah, I hope.
And at the end of the day, maybe people think, I don't need a new shirt every day, but I would like to have butterflies. Like, maybe a new shirt every day is not worth never seeing a butterfly again.
Yeah, maybe I want to just enjoy. I want to have clean water, and I don't need a new iPhone every 3 months. All right. Well, I feel like that's the end of Government Secrets episode 31. More fun with the CIA.
Yeah, everybody, thanks for listening, and please share this with people. We're trying to grow it. We're trying to get it bigger, even though we obviously are facing crazy suppression. So please tell people about the show. My stuff is at leecamp.com, and I'm also on YouTube and on Rockfin. So check those out. But yeah, all my stuff basically is leecamp.com.
Yes, everybody. You can support me at grahamelwood.com. My YouTube show, The Political Vigilante, my YouTube has been completely demonetized, and I can't appeal it till March 3rd. So if you could support me at Patreon and at rockfin.com/grahamelwood. If you go to Rockfin, it's free to sign up. I got a lot of free videos there. And if you sign up for the premium content, you get my content, Lee's, Jimmy Dore, Whitney Webb, Kim Iverson, a whole bunch of people. So check that out. And then, like, share, subscribe, do all of those things. So that's episode 31. Lock it down. Put it in the books.
Thanks, man. Talk to you next week.
All right, buddy. Have a good weekend.